Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast from the Light Review. And today I'm in conversation with Julie O'Reilly, Creative Director of Sutton Vane Associates, and we're going to be talking about where good lighting comes from. Julie, hello, good to see you.
Hi there.
And we're also happy to say we're being sponsored for this one. And Xicato have very kindly joined us, Patrick van der Meulen. Have I said that right, Patrick?
Correct, yeah. Couldn't do better.
I'm not going to have another go at that. Who joins us from a snowy Eindhoven. Thank you very much. Right, okay, so Julie, let's get straight into this. When I set up the Light Review originally, it just had one single aim, and that was to promote good lighting, and whatever that means. So I'm going to do the obvious thing and say, where do we get good lighting from? How do we make it, do you think?
Well, we get it from we get it from outside. We get it from the sky and the sun.
That's a starting point. Yes, I wasn't expecting us to go there.
And then we light firelight, and so there's all sorts of light that we connect with. And I think it's just really, it's just important to get the right kind of light for the right kind of use. Yeah, that's where my journey with Xicato, hello, Patrick, began in terms of actually making light work indoors in situations, yeah, getting the right quality of light, the right kind of color rendering, etc. So that's the beginning.
Okay, how much do you feel the client has to play in this? Because sometimes I think that if I stand in front of a client, I'm being used as sort of like the fountain of all knowledge, and I've got someone who is prepared to invest in something they know nothing about, and then it's all on my shoulders to produce what we might call good lighting. But when you get a client who has got an idea, does that make a difference? Do you think that does that enrich the process, or does that frustrate the process?
I think you start with a client. It's almost like when you go to the GP. It's sort of a diagnostic. You have to find out what it is they really, really want, and they may come with ideas, but their ideas may actually not be. It's really quite difficult. It's like you go in with a headache and in fact you've got a stomach ache. It's that sort of thing. And it's actually understanding what they want the light to do. And yes, drawing out of them the picture. And in fact, light is all about sort of what it allows you to see and what it allows you to feel. And I think that's where the journey begins, is what is it you want from the light? What is the use of your space? How are you going to perform in that space? And it's really just understanding what the purpose of it is for.
Okay. Do you set minimum, let's say, minimum technical standards? That sounds like a very boring thing. But when you start with that blank screen or that blank piece of paper, do these days you automatically go, well, we're going to go for the best light source that we possibly can? It's not so many years ago that I was saying to people, there's this thing called CRI 90, and I don't think it's worth the money, because at the moment most of us, if not all of us, are living in a CRI 80 world, because of course at that point we'd got compact fluorescent lamps here, there and everywhere. And CRI 80 was working perfectly well. So the idea that you just spend more money on getting something that's a little bit more accurate, even though you go, it's more accurate. But I get a sense that we shifted from that. So when you're looking to develop that from that original conversation, do you say, well, we already know that we will be using a CRI 90, CRI 95, or more likely, from the new sources that are coming through, we're going to be using a daylight equivalent, the full spectrum, regardless of color temperature. But the idea that we're going to be using a daylight matching source. Do you have that sort of standard, or do you really come into a job where you're going, Well, we might end up using low pressure sodium. Who knows?
The latter. I mean, I have an open mind, but that said, most of my projects have light sources that have got very high CRI or color rendering, TM30, whatever. So it is important. I think it's, again, we do a lot of work where we're in spaces and with lovely artwork where the color, bringing out the right color absolutely matters, and how you see it. And so the kind of quality of light that you're using it makes all the difference in the world. And, we go in a journey with our clients. So, for example, you might be in a conservation studio where the work that's going to be displayed comes in there. They have to work on it in a certain sort of light situation. And then it has to go back and display in a different kind of light situation. So you have to really understand what the light is doing in terms of the picture it's delivering. So yeah, it's very important in what we do.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a curator some years back about a new way of displaying paintings, and we got into a conversation about color temperature, and I was asking him about the sort of if you're going to be doing impressionist, because they've got impressionist paintings, and there was a lot of en plein air work there. I said, well, are we trying to display these in the way that the artist painted them, or are we displaying them in the way that the patron, the client, the person who actually hung it on the wall and looked at it every day would have seen it? Because those two things are completely different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's the answer? What's the answer, Julie?
You take it case by case. You take a space as different spaces, different paintings, and you strike the right note. It's exactly that. Is there a lot of blue in that painting? Are you going to go more towards daylight as it would have been painted, or are you thinking, hey, there's a lot of red, but actually ultimately the blue sky is in a gilt frame. That's going to respond really well to the reds, the warmest colours. So again, it's painting the whole picture of the space and making it feel just right. So it's all these little elements that you have to consider.
Okay.
Yeah. So we with Xicato, we've actually done research in the past where this was in the Groningen Museum in the Netherlands, where we actually looked at different paintings, and actually we had a lot of people invited to make the right choice. And actually the outcome was actually that per painting, actually sometimes a different light source was required to, like Julie explained, to have the best coming out of the picture. Is it daylight? Is that a window, or is it all with the different colors? So in an ideal world, you could actually select a different light source per painting.
Which puts me back to the way that the work was created, because apart from the infinite variety of what daylight actually means, if you're painting in a northlit studio, or if you're standing in a park painting a river, you kind of know what you've got. This idea that we can paint with light every picture in a different way is such a new idea. We have never ever been able, we wouldn't even have thought of being able to do this, other than, would you like a warm light or would you like a cold light? And here we are. And I will say, sometimes I think we are counting angels dancing on pinheads with some of these things, because it's almost like this way lies madness. I've got 1,000 pictures and I've got 1,000 ways of lighting it. And I have got 1,000 ways of lighting it. So where do we go with that? Do we have to let the client down, Julie? When the client's like, I want it to be perfect.
Never.
Never.
Never. I mean, it's very much about the space that the paintings are going to be displayed in, and the architecture, and is it a space with a lot of daylight? Are we looking at oils here? What are we looking at? Is it sort of fugitive works? Have you got, watercolors? There are so many things that you consider. And I mean, we've all been in spaces where it's sort of bathed with lovely diffuse, soft light, lots of, cool daylight sort of atmosphere, and it's refreshing. And for that, the artwork that will be being displayed in that situation will work with that. On the other hand, you have places where you actually have a much warmer, a much less daylight, paintings that need to be responded to in a different way.
Patrick, how much do you have to get involved in light trials then with this kind of work?
Quite a lot. And so for this, we actually developed some kits where people actually could, in an easy way, usually battery powered, could then try out different light sources on the objects to make the right choice together with the client. And like Julie said, it also sometimes depends on the wall the painting is hung on. It could be a green or a red or a purple wall. It all needs to be taken into account of lighting the painting. And again, in the past, the holy light source would have been halogen. But again, of course, with all the rules of lux hours that you can get on a painting, dimming down halogen would actually change the color. So then the painting actually would look different as well. Yeah.
And I'm sort of conscious that when Turner left his paintings to the nation, he stipulated that they were to be hung in a room that was painted in oxblood red, because there was no spotlighting. And he considered that presumably to give the best contrast between his work and the space. We have moved on from that. I think the best exhibition I ever went to was just basically 12 paintings hung on a wall, and the room was black. And the first thing I'll say this, the thing that actually encouraged me to become a lighting designer was the Michelangelo Today Tondo in the Royal Academy, when they first displayed that in 1970 something, and again one spotlight, and I was stunned I was absolutely bowled over by this. I thought, this is what I want to do because of the quality of that. What do we do different? Is there a difference in approach between just thinking, because that was obviously a temporary exhibition, is there a difference that we have to that we're obliged to look at between galleries where we have what we might as well call a permanent display that they might only get changed once every several years, and spaces where we might have 2 or 3 exhibitions a year? Do we have to be cognizant of changing demands, or is it at that point where you go, we're going to give you a solution? Because I'm assuming that they don't want to drop down all the lights and put new lights up, although maybe some do. Or do we come up?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, if it's a space where they're going to have several exhibitions throughout the year, you do want to have the light sources there that can actually adapt and deliver for the different hangs, and they can be quite different and different looks. So then you do want to have sort of flexible lighting. So yes, it changes.
Yeah, and we seem to be having some fun with wireless controls now, in terms of I'm thinking of sort of lens vector and their adjustable, their beam adjustment and things like that, and obviously the ability to have RCL doing their remote movement, so you can actually move things around. Is that something that is useful, or do we actually like getting our hands dirty up top of a set of steps?
It is useful. If it moves, it can actually stop moving too. So sometimes it's better to go up and physically move it and aim it where you want it to go. But what is really brilliant about the sort of the new intelligent light sources that you've got is to be able to literally stand on the ground and just adjust the levels of light, etc. That's fantastic. So you can really balance light in that way, and that's a huge resource.
Yeah, and this is something that you've got involved in, Patrick, I think.
Yes, quite a lot. Together also with Julie on some very nice projects.
Okay, so tell me something. There's two reasons usually why a manufacturer does something. One, because everybody else is doing it, or two, because somebody asks them to do it. Was this move that Xicato went to? Was that because of the demands of people like Julie, or because everybody else seemed to be doing it anyway?
No, it's a two-way. So actually, Xicato has always been an entrepreneur in developing new technologies. And the feedback that we got from many lighting designers and manufacturers as well, actually in the past, was actually the variety on different control systems and the issues they were having on their projects. And this led us to develop this new wireless control system. And by showing it to the lighting designers and the way it works, we got more and more connected with each other, and it's been now more and more widely used in the industry. But we were really early there, seeing that the customers had issues with the current control systems, especially like Julie explained. They want to adapt the light levels in an easy way without need to know much of the technology, how to control the lights.
Julie, when you're putting a specification together, then are you now finding, maybe you've always done this, but are you finding it more important to grab a hold of the control strategy and make sure that there's no opportunity to swap it out for something a bit cheaper?
It's where you start, isn't it? It's, I mean, how do you control the light in your room? How do you use that space? So this goes back to where we were at the beginning and talking about, you meet with a client and you understand how they use that space and what events take place in that space and how those lights are controlled. And you actually, the answer to that is it varies hugely. And it might be that they want something very, very simple and easy to use, and they only have a certain number of looks or scenes that they require. They might want something much more complex. So again, it's you deliver the solution for the problem, or the ask, what it is that they want. And in that respect, Xicato have been actually brilliant for us, because we went on a journey a couple of years ago for the Science Museum, and they have a new event space called Illuminate. And they wanted something that allowed them to offer to clients that wanted to hire this space out for product launches, whatever, parties. Yeah. All sorts of lighting, but even they wanted it to work on so many different levels, and we'd already been on a journey with Xicato. We in the cast courts at the V&A, we've got intelligent light sources there, which is great because the building management people can see how where the lights are on all that side of things, and we can get what we want in terms of control. But for the Science Museum, for Illuminate, it was taking it one stage further, because we wanted to be able to give them sort of colour and DMX and everything. We wanted all the bells and whistles, as well as a very elegant sort of white light look. That's where Xicato and Sutton Vane work very closely together to actually bring DMX and Bluetooth LE together for the first time. And it worked brilliantly. So the client has actually got a sort of system which they can use very easily, where they've got preset scenes all set up, and a little app which we also developed, which is easy for me to use. As I say to Patrick, I also want push buttons on the wall, because someone's going to walk off with it. We have to have it. So we had to have it on a number of different layers. So we actually all came together. So with obviously Xicato, we also brought in Pharos for the DMX, and we got a UFO to make some lovely lights for us that would change colour. And together we put our heads together. And for me, I said, it has to be simple. I have to be able to just, like, without even thinking, get what I want. And so, yeah, it's about, I think, bringing together, people who are curious and who really just want to get the job done. And so that's the journey we've been on.
Sorry, Patrick, what were you going to say?
No, you go.
Okay. I was just going to say that, yeah, wireless controls. A few years back, I did some work at the County Museum in Dorchester, and with a wireless control panel. And I said, there's something I'd like you to do. And they said, what's that? I'd like you to go to the local kitchen shop and buy a cheese board. And I want you to glue the lighting control panel to the cheese board, because then it'll be too big to put in anybody's pocket. And it's still hanging behind the door to this day, I'm happy to say. There's another thing here about this conversation, and there is someone missing from this traditional conversation, and that is the luminaire manufacturer. What we would have had, you know, in the earlier days, oh yes, pre-LED, we might have had Urco there, or we might have had Targetti, or we might have had Concord, but we would never have had a lamp manufacturer. Good heavens above, what are you doing there, Patrick? So now we've swung around, and the real discussion is about what the light is and not what the fitting is. Tell me about the relationship. Because I've always talked about the synergy between the maker and the designer. You know, the manufacturer. You put these people together. The people who've got the hardware, the people who've got the ideas. You bring them together, and you end up with magic. And to what extent is the luminaire manufacturer now having to follow the game rather than be part of it? If the real essence is about the color quality and the performance quality of an LED, where does that leave the tin can maker? That was me being cheeky.
Well, it's both. I mean, you actually have what I call sort of, you know, your seen light and your unseen light. Where does the light come from? So, you know, you have to consider the body that's holding the light source, if it's going to be visible. And sometimes you might want to make a statement with it as well, because that's all part and parcel of it. Because in fact, again, lighting crosses over with interior design. It's all part of informing your space and creating a look effectively. But I think we work closely together. So I think you're right that the manufacturers listen very carefully. I mean, we regularly get asked to come and sort of sit down and talk about products that, you know, are being developed and give support and ideas as to how they might be improved.
But you will tell them what light source you want to use.
Yes, well, it's quite interesting. When we were talking about light sources earlier, we were talking about the sort of color rendering, etc., etc. You know, you get a number of color temperatures. The other thing, again, I've been in places where I thought, okay, we're going to have 3000K here, and we're going to have this particular light source because we really like it, and we like the look of the actual luminaire, etc., etc. And then, okay, we've got other kinds of demands, so we're going to get this from another manufacturer, and again, it's 3000K, and that will put the light in there. And then you get them both. I always say, I don't care what they say on the tin, I want the lights in the studio, and we're going to look at them, and we put them side by side, and we check them out. And then, okay, so we've got this artist series chip from Xicato, and we've got this green chip from another manufacturer, and we look at them both, and they both say 3000K on the tin, and one of them's got a rosy bloom. And the other one hits the right note. So it's
yeah. See, yes, seen that. Oh, so Patrick, back in the day, you required luminaire manufacturers, I think, to send you their fixtures so you could test them.
True. Yeah.
And that's now changed, but you're offering a 10-year, fantastic sort of 10-year guarantee, but that must still be dependent upon a known performance, thermal performance of the luminaire. So what's changed in there? Is the 10-year guarantee not really a 10-year guarantee unless the old rules are still applied?
So when we basically started with the development of the products and working closely together with luminaire manufacturers, of course, we also did some development on the thermal side and also on the optical side. And the real factor for you know, getting this longevity is the temperature. the temperature is the most important thing. So the program that we initiated in the beginning was called Thermal Validation Program, and this is what you mentioned. So luminaire manufacturers would send the fixtures to Xicato, and we would do some thermal validation. And from all the fixtures that we got, none of them failed. So at some point in time, we said, okay, the manufacturers really know what they need to do when developing the fixture. So we stopped the validation program. But the warranty, of course, you know, there's written in the warranty that, of course, you need to meet the data sheet specifications. So, of course, you cannot just have a naked LED, you know, on a transformer and then have it on for 10 years. That's not going to work. You still need to have a good thermal design. But also, luminaire manufacturers, of course, have learned over the course of the years making the best of use of the LEDs.
Yeah. Okay. Julie, I've made a rod for our backs because I've written about lighting designers not specifying well enough. That it's sometimes some specifications, I've been guilty of this, you just write down the manufacturer's reference number and you say, that's it. Thank you very much. And you trust that is what gets used. Contractor comes along and goes, I can get you one of them for half the price. And that's my fault for not specifying well enough, for not going sufficient in depth. The thing that Patrick's talking about is a situation where we are trusting manufacturers to do the job properly because it's in their interest to do the job properly. But do you think that that's good enough for us as specifiers? Should we still be insisting that the manufacturers have got to put the data in front of us first before we go anywhere else?
Well, you need to, you start with what you require. So that's, you write the brief, you say what you want the light to give you. And then you will actually have lots of different manufacturers saying, yes, we can do it. And I can do it at half that price, this, that, and the other. And you look at the sources, and you also, over the years, you watch and you learn. Some sunlights look pretty good, but they don't actually necessarily continue to perform terribly well. But of course, LEDs are now getting better and better. But you know, I mean, it's going back to that. You ask for what you actually want, the color, temperature, and beam angles, etc., and you look at the products that are given to you, and then you make a call on those. But also, I think when we're talking about sort of supporting a customer, and you're talking about the 10-year guarantee, I think it's really important to be working with manufacturers that absolutely stand by their products and support you and support the client. And I mean, for example, we actually have a nice little project that we did with Xicato at Lady Margaret Hall in Oxford, where you've got a corridor full of all the great and good ladies pass through. And the client was really interested in using Bluetooth and actually being able to control their lights. And Xicato were absolutely there to actually sort of talk them through and explain how it all works. And for them, it was like, you know, because they were all academics and they really love to understand how it all works, and they wanted to be, you know, ahead of it all. And it was just great. It was just really good that I could bring the two of them together as well. And that was okay.
I'm going to finish on this one because I said we're going to try and wrap this up on sort of half an hour. And do you feel that the knowledge base within the lighting design studio has necessarily had to shift because of the LED and because of the almost random nature of light sources these days? Are we as designers having to learn more so that we're not having the wool pulled over our eyes, that we're not being told porkies by people who say, yeah, we can do that, and you can say, actually no, you can't, because we've checked it? Our lighting design is better than we were, is the question, I guess.
I don't know if they're better than we are. I think you always have to check what it is you're going to specify, and really understand, you know, what it is you're putting into a space. I mean, we're actually all quite sort of sophisticated if you think about our experience with light, right back from candlelight through to yes, yellow sodium, all sorts of. There's so many different things. But I think what's lovely now is that you do have some really good quality LEDs, and that's fantastic, and that helps us tremendously.
Okay. Hey, I'm going to, unless you've got something burning to say, I think we can wrap it up on that. I think that's a nice little sign off. Thank you, Julie. Patrick, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
See you out there, Julie. I'll see you out there one day, someday soon, in my old stamping ground of Hammersmith. Yes, I will get up there again one day.
Excellent.
And to all of you who've been watching, thank you very much. See you next time. Cheers.